Lights action camera. Okay, so I'd like to call the meeting to order and call for attendance, please.
Craig Leggett,
Here.
Michael Biddle,
Here.
Bruce Ferguson,
Here.
Ginny Sullivan,
Here.
Mike Wild,
Here.
Dan Bruno,
Here.
Brian Campbell,
Here.
Dave O'Brien.
Here. So the purpose of this meeting is to walk through acquisition documents and documents were provided by Fort Edward LPDC and WCC. I also wanted to take a chance to walk through the documents, find the opportunity. Ralph provided a copy, sent out to you. So we know the impact on it, what the impact would mean to the ID, where it stands. I'd also like to walk through, I've got the maps here of what the roadway is and where the roadway goes. So at a certain point, we will gather around to look at the maps, to look at it. But as is our practice, if we have a discussion point and once the directors are done speaking, we allow the public to speak for 3 minutes in terms of it for a question. So that's what we're looking at. I want to make sure that we cover your questions because they have come up. I will say that I need to, first of all, apologize. I misstated. I sent out an email to everyone about Kingsbury and the resolution. They have a resolution that said they would take the road if there is a permanent bridge on the road. That I don't have to backtrack, but I was informed by the Kingsbury supervisor that if the IDA was taking the road, they wouldn't do it. The second thing that came up was that there was another statement that Kingsbury would take the road if there's no restrictions on the road. So I want to make that clarification. I was off last week, the last time we met. I just wanted to make sure we clarified that for the record. So,
Mr. Chairman?
yes, Mr. Biddle.
Sorry to ask clarity, but could you just clarify where we're at now?
Where we're at right now, we're at
Yeah, no, with
383
that,
Broadway.
But what you just said there, David, or Mr. Chairman, where is the town of Kingsbury regarding the road?
I would say the town of Kingsbury will probably not take the road under the current layout. That's as far as I know. I've heard that only from the Kingsbury supervisor. I did want to clarify that.
Thank you.
Okay?
Dave,
Yes.
can we clarify, and maybe Kara has to do some research, or maybe she knows, the way I was always perceived that a municipality or an entity of a municipality you have to actually ask for the road, isn't that right, to get it from EPA?
We have to apply for the road.
You actually have to apply to
Yes.
get it.
Yeah.
So it could have been first come, first serve or whatever, and like the county's never stepped to the plate to do it, and after our meeting with EPA the first time, it looked like there was no way the county was gonna step to the plate to do it. The towns act like with certain conditions, they would do it. So is it fair to say that the IDA is the first one to come with conditions to request from the EPA, to apply for the road? Is that where we're at?
Where we're at is that anyone is free to talk to EPA, like Karen and I did, and she can correct me if I misstate, but I don't think I'm going to mistake. They are willing to accept applications for the road without conditions. They want a speedy transfer. They want to get out their books, but if they can't do it in their time frame, they will continue the transfer to Canal Corp. So they are looking for clean applications. They're not looking for someone that says, well, I'll wait till I get financing for the bridge, then I'll take the road. I'll wait for grass to grow on the bridge before I take the road. They are looking for a clean application so they can transfer the property as readily as possible. And they will still continue to accept applications for the road. Then they will pick and choose who they are. It is my understanding that, and Lester can correct me if I'm wrong, is that Fort Edward and Kingsbury had talked about applying for the road at one time. They have done nothing towards that, have they? The county, as we all know, as Brian stated, has no movement forward to accept the road. So here's a condition. We have a business, vibrant business, who was just here last Wednesday, re-looking at the site, who are looking to acquire property, build a business, and bring an investment into Fort Edward. And their initial investment would be somewhere between $17 and $18 million, bringing 50 jobs, but that is the start of their interest. So we're looking at it. What I'd like to do is have Carol walk us through the documents we presented, starting with, well, Carol, you can do it any way you want.
Okay.
And I think we should start with the road and the parcels on the road.
Yes, I agree.
Mr. Chairman, if I.
Yes, Mike.
I'm all about consequences and decisions. I've brought this up before in the past. So I'm wondering if we can maybe find a way to state this about what our consequences are. If we take this road, right, and Kingsbury chooses not to take this road, even if we replace the bridge, what are the consequences to the IDA? Is the IDA going to go bankrupt because we can't afford to plow the road, maintain the road, pay the debt service on a bridge? What are the consequences? I'd really like to understand that.
The consequences that they start off, Kingsbury, we get funding for the bridge. And there are ways, I think Laura has presented all the different options of how we can finance a bridge.
I understand.
Not finance the bridge, grant the bridge. Get grant funds to do the bridge. Through UIR, there are a number of other resources. She gave you a whole list last time of what those were and the possibility of doing those things. So that's the first thing. If we don't get funding for the bridge, we'll have to keep on plugging along for the bridge. We have an engineering study that says that bridge is in 6 out of 7 condition by the state, by Canal Corp, who had GPI do the inspection of the bridge. GPI also does inspections for state DOT. What we would like to do in terms of maintenance, we have a certain portion, I think that I'll let Fort Edward speak up about maintenance of some of the road. So the goal would be to either transfer the road to the town of Fort Edward, who said they'll take it. Haven't said when, but they'll take it. There was an offer, and I'll let you talk about the offer. You talked about maintenance of the road in terms of snow plowing. There's a possibility Fort Edward could help us in snow plowing.
Oh, yes.
Okay. So we get that covered. But the real thing we're talking about is that we'll have to put together an MOU with the facilities and companies that use that road, such as WL, WCC, Canal Corp, or any of the corporation that buys in down there, to set up a fund to help maintain the road. So those are the consequences. I've already spoken to WL, who was willing to entertain that, and we need to sometime in the near future we have to put that in concrete before they do it. So those are the responsibilities. Even if we didn't have Fort Edward willing to help with the plowing and maintenance of the road, there would be I got estimates of about $6,000 to plow that road for a year. Divide it by $6,000 a mile. So I think there's 2 miles, about 2 miles is about $12,000. If we factored out to different people in terms of WL or WCC or anyone else to do it, we will have income coming in to help us reduce that. Other maintenance costs would be covered by setting up MOU for the continuing maintenance of the road. So it's not unusual to do. There are other IDAs across the country and across the state who do the same type thing with their roads. MOUs across companies who use the road. I also put a toll gate on there if we wanted to, but it's just being facetious a little bit. But there are ways to mitigate the cost of the road.
So those are
Second
the only
thing-
consequences? What if WL decides not to come here because they're not happy with the MOU to be in the road, which could be they have to repave that road in 3 years because we can't get the bridge done. What happens to the IDA? Does the IDA dissolve because we can't afford it?
There would be options to look at. Options we could look at is that we could potentially request the county take the road. I don't know if they would or not. There's also the consequences that we could sell that to a private company or donate it to a private company. Those are possibilities. I don't know of any possibilities. Kara, does anything else ring your?
To do with the road? Not really, huh?
Today,
Yes, please.
would you refresh our memory as to the total amount of the fees that'll come to the IDA when the transaction goes through? We already have an application deposit, right?
Well,
You proceed.
we broke it into two parts. We received $50,000 plus legal fees for the initial sales tax. We have another $50,000 coming when they execute the contract.
Okay.
When we take the lease back on the property, give
Haven't
them,
plowed the road a couple
Pile.
of times,
Yeah.
Mr. Wild.
is there a risk? Yes, but what is the mission of the idea?
No, I totally understand that. I'm
We're
just
not
trying to
deploying
understand, just trying to understand the risks of what would make us pause to stop going forward with this. It doesn't sound like there's any. We can get out of it, we can give it away, we can give it to the county, we dissolve the IDA. I don't know. I just like to understand those.
Mr. Bill?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Mr. Wild brings up a great point. And also another point that I look at this is, even if WL does not come in, we now have a place, if we take the road and the land, we have a place to market and market well, without jumping through hoops and without months of negotiation and back and forth. So I thought the same things, Mr. Wild, what if? And what if it doesn't happen? Well, the nice thing is we'd have some prepared property, or some good prepared property with great rail siding to market well.
So let's talk about the truth. Currently today, I just got the numbers from the treasurer. There's $915,000 in taxes owed on that property. If WL doesn't clear those taxes, in February next year, the county has the ability to foreclose on the property. I can't say what the treasurer will decide to do or the county decide to do. So realistically, if WL doesn't come, and we don't come with a windfall, maybe we should invest our money in the lottery tickets, but I'm just being a little facetious, is that we're only talking about less than a year or maybe a little more than a year to maintain the road before it's foreclosed on or the county takes the property. We're not going to pay those taxes. We don't have money to pay those taxes. That's what we need to come in to help the county recoup their money. And who knows what it will be next year in terms of penalties and interest will add up. I'm guessing with penalties and interest, probably close to $1.2 million, just based on what I've seen. Ryan?
So with durable access, if we actually get the road from EPA, that will be settled, and WL will have to come up with a different reason to not come. That's been their whole issue.
That's been their whole issue. They were here Wednesday and I
So
wish.
If we can agree on all these things that we're gonna look at are good enough to make this go through, we're set. That's what we're here for tonight.
We're here to review the documents, make sure we're prepared to execute the resolution we did last week, or like 2 weeks ago, I'm sorry,
Okay.
to apply for the road and take the road. There'll still be a time between the time we apply for the road and it's turned over where we could in fact change our direction. So there is some time there. I wouldn't want to do that because even if WL doesn't come here, we now have a road that has durable access that instead of going to auction without any durable access, we will have the ability to say, here's a road, you can market, you can put the property up for auction, and certainly with access, it's going to bring a better, in my humble opinion. I'm not an expert on that, but it's Jack Kelly can tell you, he's been in real estate for 400 years. So
So, are we ready to move on and look at the documents?
I do want to clarify a couple points I've heard. Is number one, people seem to think that the Fort Edward LDBC, and if it becomes the IDA property, is a public land. It is not a public land. And Kara, would you cite that for me, please?
Yes, the property is currently private property, not for public access back and forth. It's granted through a license from the EPA. If the IDA takes it over, it'll continue to be private property.
And the road?
Oh, the road, yes, that's what I'm
The
saying.
road and the property.
The road and the property, yes. If the IDA takes title to the property, it remains private property, or takes title to the road, it remains private property.
And within that, we can set our conditions on the road. Though I'd like to welcome everyone to come in the road. If we get, I don't know if we get to put speed limits on there, but do get to put weight limits and other limits on there, protect our property in terms of that. So I just want to make that clear to people because some people think this is public lands. It's not public lands. So we'll see. Kara, would you walk through the documents, please?
Okay, sure. So in your packet, you have the documents that we were provided from Mike O'Connor's office on behalf of WCC. And those are all the transfer documents. I'll go through them, but I'm just going to reference them separately. Then there's this document that lists out all the road parcels, and then the real property descriptions follow. And then there are a series of 4 maps that are included, and I'm going to reference these by sheet number, and that's in the very far bottom left corner. And so that's the sheet number that I'll reference. So I'll go through these, it's easiest. So
I think we should break it in 2 parts.
I'll do the documents we discussed at the last,
Do the road documents first and then get into the interior documents.
Yep.
Because in my mind, they're 2 separate but related transactions.
I can, yep, I'll do
So I think
that.
it helps people to clarify what those are.
So at the last meeting, when you approved moving forward with taking property that consists of the road, one piece was obviously the piece from the EPA, and then the other was 3 parcels from WCC, and that was what was discussed at the last meeting. So today I'm going to talk about a couple of other additional parcels, but I'll do the ones first that we talked about at the last meeting. So the first one is with respect to the Mary Webb piece. That's probably the easiest parcel. That's the legal document to transfer it is this deed. There's a being clause in the middle, and you'll see we have the name in it, so it's probably the easiest way to identify it. But where this property is, this is a standalone parcel, and it's located in the town, and it's on map number 1 towards the top, maybe like a third of the way down. You'll see where the surveyor has identified lands of WCC, and then it's a 0.6 acre parcel. So that's that little piece that we've discussed. That's a standalone parcel that's owned by WCC. And so that's the first parcel. The next,
Can you, sorry,
yeah.
one more time.
Okay, so on
How does it start out?
sheet number, if you look midway, about halfway down the page, it says being the premises conveyed by Mary Webb. That's the,
So the Mary Webb piece is sheet number, is
Okay.
the very first one, the 0.61 acres.
yep, it's on sheet number 1 of the surveys. And all these surveys connect together to show the full.
If anyone sees bigger paper, there's bigger sheets over here.
So if you look on sheet number 1, about right at the, kind of at the top, it says lands now are formerly of Mary Hurley. Right below that, there's an explanation of the lot, of the 0.6 acre lot with a line over to that portion of the road in the town. You'll note that these are quitclaim deeds. We did go back to Mike O'Connor and ask if his client would be willing to provide a warranty deed or a bargain sale deed. So we're hoping that that will be the case. We've requested that. Okay. The next parcels that we discussed at the last meeting are on this next document. Looks exactly the same as the other one, except the being clause says a portion of the premises from Eleanor Birch, and then it goes on. And these are on sheet 3 of the surveys. So I'll give you a second to find sheet 3.
Is it by itself? Is it a piece of paper by itself?
That's the deed. Yeah, this is the deed for parcels 2 and 3. On the back, it has 2 different descriptions.
The back of Schedule A, right?
Yeah, the Schedule A on the back.
Great.
And then on the front, that where it says being a portion of, it says conveyed by Eleanor Birch.
Is it just that tiny little section of road we're talking about?
So it's 2, this deed contains 2 different parcels. So these are the ones that require subdivision approval. So on sheet 3, the first lot is identified on this document as number 2. It's a 0.14 acre parcel. And this is the one that we've kind of identified as a boundary line adjustment. It's not being treated as that, but there was an error in the mapping when it was
That's this.
originally done.
That's
Right,
Z?
correct,
Okay.
yeah. That's that little parcel, and it's almost smack dab in the middle of the page.
The triangle.
Yeah, triangle.
And all 3 of these are unencumbered, right?
Yes.
They
Yes,
come with no restrictions.
correct,
They are totally deeded to the IDA
correct,
for $1 a piece.
correct.
Okay.
And then
No restrictions.
no
No
restriction.
restrictions.
The other parcel that's on this deed that we discussed at the last meeting is parcel number 3 on this sheet, and this is a 1.54 acre. And that is all the way to the left. It's identified right below that bend. And so these 2 are set out on a different deed because these 2 require subdivision approval, and we could have taken the Mary Webb piece right away if we wanted to, because that's a standalone piece. These 2 require subdivision approval.
And who does that?
That is something that you approved at the last meeting to undertake, having those 2 parcels subdivided off.
Okay.
The application has not been filed yet.
Right.
And those will be in Fort Edward.
Yes,
Fort Edward
Yes.
Planning Board that'll be doing.
40, yeah, 40. So, once we got these documents, because they came with other documents, as you know, from your crowd, I'll just go through the rest of the road first, because we got this sheet, which identified 8 different parcels that we would need to take title to. So, number 1, we've talked about. Number 2 comes from the EPA. Number 5 comes from the state. Then 2 and 3 we just spoke about. And so it's these last 3 that we didn't discuss at the last meeting. We didn't have information concerning those at the time. So the first one is a 3.9 acre parcel of property from the Fort Edward LPDC. And that is noted, that's shown on survey number 4. And it's reflected right in the note for it is right in the middle of the page, but it's that 3 acre parcel. And when we get to the other documents, I'll explain what
Can you point
I'm
out?
sorry, Charlie.
Yeah, do you have sheet number 4?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay, so it's right in the middle where all see where the notes are, and then you'll see the line across to it pointing to, but it contain, I mean, it's obviously more than that, just that area, because it contains 3.9 acres proposed.
No,
Okay,
no,
so
it's
it's a center part. of the-
Yeah, this shows 4.2, but they're identifying it at 3.9, 4.2, so there's a discrepancy needs to be clarified.
It's my understanding, we all know that road narrows a little bit after that building.
Yep.
It's my understanding that WL Plastics is gonna move that boundary in, so the road will be legal two lanes, because they want their employees to come through that road and come back into their parking lot. And they want that to be two, so they're gonna edge that over another 2 feet, I think it was, to make it a standard road.
So this was, the center is number 6.
Mm-hmm. Yep, yes.
Can you kindly show us on the big map?
Yeah, sure.
Because I'm only 29 years old.
You can't read the 7.7?
No.
I gotta do glasses.
I don't know how
As a
you read
result.
everything off your phone. I can. Imagine there's a way here to make magnify, but I don't know how.
Yeah, it's
It's
right
right
here.
So it's right here,
Is that the border between Kingsbury and Fort Edward?
yes.
Okay.
No, yeah,
No.
no, that's on the other, that's on the other.
Way down that way.
okay, that's fine.
It's
So
this
that's number 6.
So it's all the way from here to here?
is what they're showing this piece here, this 3.9 acres. It shows here as 4.21. I have a message into them to confirm,
Message in the who?
the surveyor.
Okay.
I don't know who prepared this cover sheet, so.
Now, when we're taking the road, New York State usually defines a road with rods off the center line.
They have, they've only given us a meets and bounds
Okay.
description for this. And this, I'm not sure. Well, I guess we need to, I don't know the current condition of that, what that is at this point.
What do you mean the condition?
Like,
What are
is
you
it-
clarifying this?
Because this portion was not discussed at the last meeting because there's another
But there's an actual road there. That's what we drove.
right, but
What are you looking for?
where the,
Number 6, it goes all the way down through here.
And then 7 and 8.
okay, so 7 is,
Well, there was this piece here. It's owned by Fort Edward, by permit easement on it for conveyance.
0.068. Is that it?
Which one's
right,
that?
that's
Okay.
8.
That's number 8.
Right here.
Okay.
Then there was this little piece of triangle down here. It's in the village.
That's in the village. That's owned by the Fort Edward LPDC.
Oh, is that why that's, okay,
So where's number 7 then?
right down here. It's across the town line. Where is it? Town building.
Are they right here?
Right.
Yeah, okay. Just to give us,
Okay, so where's number 7? Right here somewhere? Yep.
That's 7, yeah.
Right here,
Down here, yeah, the little,
that little triangle.
in the village portion.
I'm trying to read the survey.
we did.
Can you hear Nick? 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 Can you hear Nick?
What kind of warranty
Turn the speaker off.
is
Can
this?
you hear now? Okay. Okay, got it.
Boundary description. This one doesn't, these aren't been certified to the IDA yet.
So what is, there was a parallel they have in this.
Right.
That's what a surveyor does.
Right.
We do, that's the firm.
They had it on-
Cover down your end tonight.
I think they're using
Which is there.
You have a different method.
You know,
We don't have to call over nobody.
Surveyor.
Yeah.
See,
So I remember we went out.
you don't have this one? This is one we're special. This is,
I know what you figured it out.
What do you want me to
so
do?
they must not have these. So,
Boy, that's really not nice. That's really not nice.
so Dave, do you want me to go
Well,
over
it's Washington County, we're all
Washington piece?
Right,
Okay.
Let's use the question.
Those are-
When they're meeting, I would just-
Yeah. And this second row is a little bit- That's why there's a difference. Yeah, you can-
There's a Z right here, which is this engineer, when we were talking about the second piece of property. That's a Z, that's a long. And comes through. Anyway,
That's the whole main, that main road.
Everybody else.
Yeah, so it's- you're right. Yeah. That goes to the top.
That's a really. Yeah, that's been.
They already did, years ago, and then we're gonna get it for $1. And that's the wharf area that the EPA owns. And the EPA owns most of this road. But the three that says that the DEC owns, making a continual road.
There wasn't any like somebody.
So that's why you needed the balance of the EPA.
So I can't understand how many
parcels.
No, I know, everybody-
Throughway, durable access to WL to even consider.
No.
I now have a printer working, but I didn't bother copying my own. Don't worry about it, because it's in the computer if I need to look at it. Okay.
He goes to personnel. Because, including some of my friends.
Any other question on these?
Oh, well, number one, Kingsbury, the town of Kingsbury 4 years ago passed a resolution saying they would take the road if the bridge was permanent. So that's the only reason they're not taking the
So
road.
my question is how do you build a road on a property you don't own? How do you build a bridge on a property you don't own?
Good.
Right.
But that's.
Isn't that a self-defeating resolution?
Right, and I don't mind that the town of Kingsbury, that I think that that's right and proper. Why would they want to take it? And because they receive no tax benefit on the Kingsbury side, when all the tax benefit, not all, but there's county and town. So I totally understand why Kingsbury wouldn't want to take it unless it was a permanent bridge.
And WL is.
Right, can't point.
WL is in Florida.
Correct. But the repercussions are, if this doesn't go through, then guess who pays the back taxes to make the school whole, the village whole, the town whole? The county.
County's already paid.
County's already paid most of it. They're up to, they'll be up to figuring out how to dispose of it and use that their money.
Does that help, Mr. Wild?
Yes.
A little more clarity on what how Kingsbury says and doesn't say. Town board makes the decisions for a town supervisor. There's only one vote on any town board. So
But the
you can usually count on and trust him to know what his board wants, but it's ultimately it's the town board that's gonna make whatever final decision he signs off on.
Well, the town board of Kingsbury 4 or 5 years ago voted unanimously.
And
They
4 or
were
5 years
taking-
ago, it was the same people that are on.
It is
now.
not.
No, but I'm just saying, it's not a threat to me. I mean,
Oh, well, it's not a threat. I think the town of Kingsbury is
Just warning everybody that we can talk about what the supervisor says.
Oh, right.
What town board thinks, but when it comes, push comes to shove.
Tell them
Now
what-
you know, your
tell
town
them
board.
what-
You go back and tell them what you.
I can only speak to what I'm told. Any other questions on those pieces of property?
That's why we're here.
You probably already answered this. That funny little triangular piece, there was a mistake.
There's actually two pieces that were mistaken.
And,
But one was there, there's one little jog in here, right here.
okay, so,
That line really should have gone all the way around like that, somehow there was a.
so how's that being taken care of, I'm sorry?
That was on the two, well, no, that was the two parcels.
The state, they spoke to the governor, he said it was all right.
It was each right, it was number 23.
I would, the governor loved that road, it's economic development.
Oh, and it's not 50,000 an acre, you know, but I mean, for that house.
So what else are we doing?
As long as, I'm on the board.
We're on that.
I don't have to pay for any of these things that are different.
I want to, there was two other documents that I think are germane that we need to talk about. And Kara can keep on walking through that.
Okay. Which one do we do first? Okay, the next document that we were provided a copy of is an easement from the LPDC to WCC. It's an easement for purposes of ingress and egress. It's not exclusive, which means that other people could also utilize the same property. There's no restrictions on it, but it allows ingress and egress by vehicle from WCC property to the wharf property. And it's identified by a property description, but it's also identified by map. And I'm not really sure if you can really see on this version.
So it really encompasses all the road from the facility on to where it terminates. And Craig, now, Kara,
Yeah.
for ingress and egress, any company would have to request access to it unless they were physical property owners.
Yes,
So we could have 100 non-exclusive easements
correct.
on that road. Is that correct?
So, Mr. Chairman, though, not to create more questions, because I'm in favor of moving forward with this, but you said something about charging people for access and maintenance of the road.
Yes.
This doesn't mention anything about that. If they're moving heavy equipment and heavy trucks moving, who knows, they want to take all the fill out of those lots and build a lake. We're going to be on the hook for maintaining those roads.
We will internally have to set up an agreement with the internal property owners to maintain the internal roads,
Including WCC.
including anyone who owns property in that facility. Which WCC owns 2 or 3 pieces of property that I know of, maybe more, I don't remember which.
So, of course,
So we-
could we kind of modify this with a little language about providing some type of support
Well,
for
this
the maintenance of these roads?
we're not a party to this document. So this document is between Fort Edward LPDC, they're granting the easement to WCC. So if you were to proceed and take title to the road and the additional property, this would be an encumbrance that would be on the property at the time that you took title to it in the form that it's currently drafted.
So the answer is no.
Correct. We can't modify this, no.
Correct. We'd have to come up with our own
At this
agreement.
time. But when it comes time to exercise that easement or do anything along with it, they could be assessed for use of the road.
They would need to you would need to negotiate and you would need their cooperation.
There's no reason for them to do that. They just don't have unrestricted access. It still makes sense to go forward. I just wanted to point that out also. There's another risk.
It is another risk. You're correct. Yes, Mr. Biddle.
In order for WCC or anybody to use that road, they'd also have to pass over the EPA remanded road to us. Correct?
Correct.
So,
We can shut down the road.
It's just access through that one little section.
Right, but
Okay.
they got into the other section, something like that.
So in order, if people want, people, no, we gotta work out a memo here.
What hardball we want to play.
Not to be unreasonable, but okay, you have a little leverage.
You're exactly right.
Good question.
IDA has a private driveway. We'll start at 196 and go right to the beginning of the dewatering facility. With a private drive, it's not open to the public. You have to have permission or a license or an easement or whatever to come down that road. And I would welcome everyone to come down that road if they have proper need to be in the facility. But I do have concerns that if we don't do preventative maintenance, preventive options to that road, that do we really want heavy trucks using that road all the time? I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the weight limit for the road. I think that's something we have to look at because we will be responsible for helping maintain that road. We have to pass those costs off to the user of those roads. And the answer to toll is not a bad idea.
Who used the road before?
This was, main use of the road was EPA. EPA built that road when they started the project. I'm not sure when they built it. I'm guessing between 2006, 2007, 2008. They built that road. They allowed access to the public for people who need to get to the facility. Canal Corp, WCC, they did it under license.
Where did the
Wherever GE.
trucks hauling, did they use that road?
After they constructed the road, there was very little transfer of material over that road. Materials came in on a barge to the wharf, were then brought into the facility, processed the facility. Then they were moved to rail cars to transport them to Texas. So
That's why they want to get out of Texas.
Thank you.
Okay. Other questions on the easement? Non-exclusive, doesn't hurt anything, just allows them to get to their property. Moving on, option.
Okay, the last document that's provided is an option agreement. And again, this option agreement is between the Port Edward LPDC and WCC. And this property is, the agreement is an option to purchase a certain parcel of land. This parcel is shown on map S4, and it is the parcel that is directly below, everybody marked number 6 on their maps here in the middle. It's this long shape right below that.
Including the road.
Does not include the
No,
road.
no,
There's no official road there.
There's pavement that goes down to the canal, right?
There's
So we're
pavement,
looking at on the map.
the pavement goes to the fence between Fort Edward properties and the canal properties.
Mr. Chairman, and Ms. Kara, is that the piece of property that looks like a rifle?
yes, I was gonna say
Okay,
that.
thank you.
I wasn't sure.
Where the rifle meets the shoulder, looks like there's pavement going to the water. So they will own that section of pavement.
They'll only own the section of property that goes to the fence. The balance of that property is owned by NIPA, Canal Corp, and controlled by NIPA and Control Corp, unless some municipal organization decides to take that piece of property
Like
or
the IDA.
apply for it, like the IDA or the county or town of Granville, whoever can prove need for that piece of property.
Can we ask for easement across that?
We can ask for license across it, they do not provide easements. So until such time as the option is exercised, there are no restrictions, there is no ownership of the land to go. Fort Edward LPDC or the IDA will still control that.
And at the point that if it is exercised, it can then be taken eminent domain.
Or other trade-offs.
If we have.
That's elaborate.
And I'm glad we had.
We're not without ammunition.
This is owned by the,
I just have a bad feeling about that.
yeah, Canal Club.
You sure?
I do until
Is this-
Sorry
this
to
is owned
may
by
I approach the
Canal Club?
bench.
you loaded your gun
Yes.
every other.
This is all-
Okay.
Very
Craig, that was
I'm
right.
taking mine all day.
Write that down, so that was right. I mean, that's the option. Right now,
So the road is Canal Club. Just that.
right now, no one uses hasn't been used in 5 years. Canal Corp and EPA don't know what they're gonna do with it yet. So there is potential to look at that as an option, to add that to our ability to put property down there or to have someone manage the wharf for us, like we're having someone, like we will potentially, if we take that property, have the managing the rail yard that belongs to Fort LPDC and in the current, well, yes.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to clarify then, on that map for this option agreement then, is the property line of the option agreement south of that southerly access to basically where the gate is now?
Yes, it's on the lands currently owned by Fort Edward LPDC. And I can't even see it in there, but
And we're supposed to be copying it, that's.
it's a bad copy. I told you you should have a color copier. It's a dark land there, but it's before the fence.
Okay. So would this option preclude, say, the IDA access to?
If the IDA wanted access, they would have, if the option's exercised. If the option's not exercised, it's still controlled by Fort Edward LPDC or IDA, whoever owns the property.
Okay.
Once the option is exercised, then that access is controlled by whoever owns that property.
Wow.
And yes, that is a concern to me, but we don't have control over that. I don't know.
This
I know what happened to
happening
that.
outside of our realm here.
Happen outside our realm. Our decision will be, if we come to the point where that property is subdivided, are we willing to take that property with the option on it, or if the land is sold? Did I state that correctly, Carol?
Correct. And so, right, until the option is, if the option is never exercised, then it would just remain owned by LPDC or the IDA, if the IDA takes the balance of the property.
Right, because originally, let's call it the dome, the remainder of the land in the context of WL purchasing the center of the property and the IDA obtaining the remainder of the property that was the Fort Edward local development. This comes off of what is the remainder?
That's correct.
75% of that, we do understand is wetland. Is that correct?
There's a lot of wetlands yet. I don't know what percentage is. There's a lot of wetland
Is
there.
wetland. Of course, they after all the wetlands are in.
I think the concern of most people is that there are two access points there into the wharf area, which are not public access at the point, never have been public access. They were built for GE. There is license for companies to go in and out of there, but they're not using it to get to the wharf. They're using it to get out towards East Street and maintenance of the area. So it never has been public access. And go ahead, Mike.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. This is a question for Kara, I believe. When I was looking at this option agreement, and I stepped outside for a minute to speak with my counsel before I brought it up publicly. But this, it appears as though someone's going to get $50,000 for this property. Is it the Fort Edward Local Property Development Corporation, or is it the IDA?
Well, it depends who the owner is of the property
At the time.
at the time the option is exercised.
Okay, so,
So if this is exercised, if this is in effect currently and it's exercised tomorrow, then the Fort Edward LPDC. And then that property would be transferred to WCC. If it's 5 years from now and the IDA owns that property, then the IDA would be the seller and would receive
so we're
those funds.
not currently in negotiations for this piece of property,
You currently are under contract for this piece of property.
this piece of property, okay?
Correct.
The reason I bring this up is it's optics. The Fort Edward Local Property Development Corporation would get $50,000 in their pocket after basically having all their obligations resolved for the late taxes.
I think that
That's all.
it's optics. I think that if they are, that money will be used to pay the taxes. Remember, this property has to be free and clear of taxes when it's sold,
To be subdivided.
to be subdivided.
And it has to be subdivided for the sale to happen.
Taxes have to be paid before you can subdivide.
So we're not worried about this. I'm sorry, I'm not very quick this afternoon. Maybe I need more coffee, but this is,
Now, maybe you ought to get the scotch out.
that might help.
Last time was beer, but now it's scotch. No, you are correct. Whoever owns that property at the time the option is awarded to. It's the IDA at that point, they get $40,000 to use to defer our expenses. If it's not, if it's Fort Edward LDC, what they do with that money, I assume that if it hasn't been subdivided, that money would go to help clear the taxes. But I can't talk for them.
I just brought it up. I don't think it's a concern of ours, but I'm just worried about making sure that everybody understands what might happen.
I think everyone should understand what would happen. That's why we're having this meeting today, because there's been a lot of information put out there, some correct, some a little correct, some a lot correct, some not correct. So I
And some
wanted
of this
clarification for the board, because we're the ones that ultimately make this decision.
And some of this could even change with them meeting today, possibly, right? God knows. You know,
I've seen this stuff change a million times in the past.
What I'm saying.
6
might
months.
be Now and something be different by morning.
Travis?
It has changed. You can, ask the gentleman over there as well, who was at the meeting. They just did, grant the easement and they did grant the option. So that's not anything that you can do. As far as I'm concerned, the damage has been done by the Fort Edward LPDC. And the best thing that you can do is to concentrate on getting WL here. And, that's what's in your power. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Travis.
Mr. Chairman, for clarification then, on this piece of, that is the option. Currently, this is all unsubdivided, so.
Unsubdivided. Before anything happens, it all has to be, number one, tax have to be paid. And then the property can subdivide it as it falls out.
Okay.
Like I said, at the point that happens, we have a decision to make. Do we want to move forward with the balance of the property? I'm going to talk about something else in a few minutes. Or do we think the option is enough to harm our potential business model for that organization? At that time, when we own the property, then we can have another discussion with other people to see what we can do to come to a good conclusion on how we make use of the entire property.
Okay. So, for clarification then, the IDA would be, if we move forward, accepting the donut of the remainder of the property that, and that would include be encumbered with an easement and an option.
Correct.
Okay.
Typically, what would happen in that scenario is if the IDA took title to the balance, the deed would reference the property. It would have an inclusion of language that indicated subject to an easement, subject to the option agreement, and it would reference both of those documents.
Any other questions or comments? Brian?
Are we looking for the IDA we're looking to move forward and ask or apply for the road at this point.
Correct.
Are we going to take the donut before we have the road? Or simultaneously or after? What?
Well, actually, the road up till the dividing line on the entryway, we can take whenever they decide to convey it to us. There's no restrictions or encumbrances on that road from 196 to the entryway to the facility. So we would have that road. No matter what happens with that interior parcel called the dewatering facility, we would still own the road.
And you'd have to apply for it first.
Yes.
So are we, I don't know how to rephrase this because there's no way to rephrase it. Are we waiting to hear back from the EPA that they have conveyed the road before we take the donut? Are we doing it simultaneously or do we care in what order? That's where I'm.
We'll take the road first because there's no conditions on an application. They will not take restrictions on an application. That would be a restriction or a condition, so to speak.
So you take the road first
Road first.
before there's any restriction. Okay. Just wanted to clarify.
May never close.
Dave, are you taking the road or are you taking the parcel which contains the road?
The parcels.
We're taking the parcels and the road.
The parcel which contains the road.
Right, that's
Right.
what
I think that's a very specific clarification that you should keep talking that way. You're not taking a road.
We're taking the
You're
properties.
taking the
because
property that contains the road. There's a distinction there.
That's good clarification. There are three owners to that road, to that parcel from 196 to
the dewatering
the
facility.
water facility. I think it's broken up. Two pieces belong to are controlled by the EPA. Three pieces are controlled by WCC. And the one piece, the triangle property is controlled by New York State. There's another piece that we don't know whether we asked for a deed for it or asked for a deed for it or an easement. That's a little sliver piece of property that town of Fort Edward has that diagonal line. Yes.
I'd like to suggest we get a deed because we're gonna have a deed for the rest of it.
Mhm.
I'd rather have a deed for all of it, so I would suggest that we just have a deed for that.
I'm fine with that as long as Fort Edward agrees with it.
And then also everything we've looked at is a deed by acreage, nothing to do with mileage of road. So I think that goes to Mr. Hicks' clarification that it's actual property, not the road. We're actually taking the whole property that's being made available to us.
There is really not a road there. It is a means of conveyance from one spot to another, which happens to look like a road.
Very good.
I don't know where that one came from,
I don't know.
but it's really not a road, it's a driveway. Any other questions? Comments? Dana?
Thank you, Dana Half, Town of Hartford. Discussion here about what Kingsbury will or won't do. That's for Kingsbury to say, not for me. This is a copy of the Kingsbury resolution that we're going to talk about. And so one of the conditions of it says, resolve, WCC at their sole expense and cost shall construct a new and permanent bridge crossing Bond Creek pursuant to the relevant design standards contained within New York State Department of Transportation Bridge Manual based upon the anticipated industrial use contemplated for the properties that would utilize Lock 8 Way, and be it further, they have some other things. So their resolution says that unless WCC builds the bridge, they're not taking the road. You keep talking about they're gonna take the road, they're gonna take the road. It's already done. They're not gonna take the road because this resolution is already violated. But let Kingsbury speak to that. Mr. Ferguson is absolutely correct. One resolution today only lives until there's another one tomorrow. Now, I'm hearing a little bit about you. In my opinion, you can't have it both ways. You're talking about IDA would now own a private road that you put a toll gate on and everything else. But yet you're going to apply for New York State for money to put a bridge on a road that's not a public road? You're gonna apply to New York State for grant money to put a bridge on a private road? I don't
One of the powers of the
understand that.
IDA.
Also, there's a lot of discussion here today about the option that Mr. Whitehead just said, that WCC signed with Fort Lauderdale PDC. The way I read the document is they get $10,000 up front for doing it, but that option remains open for 20 years. The remainder $40,000 might not ever come if in the 19th year they decide they don't want to do it. They kind of reserve, they're the first one in line for that property. Now, there's a discussion here about how that strip of land in front of the wharf would limit the access to the wharf. I invite you all to look at the map again and look at the rail spur. They're currently right now between CP Rail and the many miles of siding. There is a little strip of land owned by WCC. So in order for you to come from CP Rail to the rail siding, you have to cross WCC property, just like you will have to do now for the wharf. The exact same situation exists with the rail spur. But look at the map, it's right there, it's clear. Thank you.
I believe you go through there, the IDE lands go past there, and the IDE lands could get through there to their rail spurs. Is that correct, John?
So the rail spur property that he's talking about is the small south end sliver of land that we purchased from D&H Railroad. D&H Railroad, when we took over the property, was going to remove the main line switch. They were basically holding us hostage, so we ended up having to buy that piece of property and commit to some traffic for that switch to even be there. So if we did not buy that piece of property, you wouldn't have a switch, you wouldn't have a rail there.
Thank you for the clarification.
You know, I get very frustrated when everyone thinks that I'm sitting back here, and WCC sitting back here, you know, making a fortune on paying $118,000 of National Grid bills to keep that substation going so it doesn't get ruined for the next user. You know, all we've done is invested millions of dollars into that facility to make it a public benefit, and that's still our intention. Our intention is that $50,000 of option goes towards that back taxes that we need to solve to get this piece of property subdivided for WL Plastics. We're not here for ourselves. We've wasted a lot of time that we could be doing other things.
Let's vote then.
Pardon?
Let's vote then.
Do we proceed with applying for the road to confirm our resolution last week? Do I have a motion?
Apply for the road.
I'll second.
Parcel.
Apply for the parcel. Very good.
Motion by Brian, second by Mr. Wild. Roll call, please.
And apply to the EPA.
Correct. And take care of the other pieces of property that were, the 4 other pieces of property.
Nick can't vote, right, because he's on the phone?
Can't vote, he's on the phone. I hope he's still on the phone.
Okay.
Okay.
Craig Leggett.
Aye.
Michael Biddle.
Yes.
Bruce Ferguson.
Yes.
Ginny Sullivan.
Yes.
Mike Wild.
Yes.
Dan Bruno.
Yes.
Brian Campbell.
Yes.
Dave O'Brien.
Yes. So this is a start of bringing a new company, a new start for that facility to bring the company in to start rebuilding the assessed value in Fort Edward and the county. Any other questions? I've done that business. In a meeting we had last week with the stakeholders who are involved in this property, we had an interesting presentation which we made available. One of the suggestions is that there is a lot of funding available, potential funding available to help rebuild infrastructure. Included in that is potentially natural gas, sewer, water, other facilities, as well as establishing public-private partnerships to help market the area to make it more successful. It was put on by Laura Oswald. We'll see that presentation. I'll tell you who was there: myself, Brian, Craig Leggett, John Davidson, Lester was there. I missed someone.
Chairman of the board, Sam.
Chairman of the board, Sam Hall, Chris DeBolt. I must have missed someone, but it was just a discussion for formality.
Mary
Mary Traver,
Neil Orsini.
Neil Orsini. So the discussion, many years ago when China Rail was coming, Laura put together sort of a vision of where to go, what we needed to do, and the infrastructure to build. And what we're doing is looking at doing that in terms of a feasibility study. How do we make the best use of that property? How do we do other things? The suggestion was the IDA apply for a grant to do a feasibility study. And you have a resolution in front of you that Kara put together today. I'm sorry it's late, but she just did it when we found that out from Friday night today. But what they'd like us to do is, and I'd like to do it because I'd like to maximize that area for the benefit of the whole community, is look at putting together a feasibility study to do that. Feasibility study would include such things as infrastructure. Do we need a new road to the wharf? Can we justify a new road to the wharf? Can we do other things to that? Can we bring infrastructure in to build and improve the road system? Bring water, sewer, natural gas into that property. And that would all benefit not only that area there, but the entire part of that town to help build those, rejuvenate some of that aging infrastructure there. And there is potential of getting money to improve the road systems come in and come out. So there are those potentials. But what was suggested is that we do that in terms of feasibility study. I think the resolution put out was, where did the resolution go?
To solicit proposals.
Solicit proposals. So you authorized me today, the board today, to put out proposals for the feasibility study. We would have to come back to the board for approval on any expenditures. Approval of that. We would also be able to apply for grant money to help cover the cost of the grant. So we want to look at this as a vision, not only for getting WL Plastics here, but a vision for getting communities in here. If we rebuild that area, bring in another $100 million worth of assessment, $50 million of assessment, helps the county, it helps the facility, it helps the taxpayers in Fort Edward, Washington County, all over the place. So it would be a big benefit in terms of employment as we watch what's going on out here, and we see GE taking on the building. That's always distressing to see. Thank God it's not in the Fort Edward School District.
Dave, I think the only thing you left out was it was suggested because it was EPA and they may have funding to ask for them to even fund the feasibility study when we apply for the road. So I just wanted everyone to be aware of that. That may be an opportunity we have. We don't know, but nothing ventured, nothing gained. And the other thing we looked at was a joint venture with Warren County compost facility that was mentioned, and that's going to be, some of that will be unveiled, I believe, in the morning at our public works. So it would be the same thing that we saw.
There is a need for a digester, and there was some talk about a digester. So there is uses of the property out there that could potentially be used. But the suggestion was that this will be a regional partnership to help the entire area. What the impact of those organizations are, I don't know. I don't know much about digester or the composting facility, but if it comes, we'll learn. So you've got in front of you a resolution allowing us to at least start soliciting specifications and a proposal for doing a feasibility study. Craig?
I move it.
Moved by Craig. Second by Brian. The one thing we didn't talk about was the suggestion we put in for the IDA a $20,000, an amount not to exceed $20,000. Hopefully get all covered by a grant.
Okay, because, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr.
that's
Bill.
gonna cost more than that.
We thought so, but we started looking at, the study's already been done. There's a lot of these pieces together. There was a 500 and some odd page Northeast industrial reuse of that facility done about 6 or 7 years ago. There's a lot of pieces in there. We just want to make sure it's done for us. And yes, if we use grant money, you know, we'd have to have a match. So we'd have to match and we get additional funds. Yes, Mike.
Mr. Chairman, rural development also has grants for these things, not only for the feasibility study, but also for marketing. Also.
Do you have a timetable? Do you have any idea? Do we have to wait to a certain time?
Generally, you do.
I know time is of the essence in some of these things too, that's why I'm asking.
Correct.
There was also a couple other sources we were going to ask for also. I think Adirondack Gateway
Mhm.
was one of them. EPA was another one. There was several that I mentioned, but my memory served me. Jack could probably list them all off. Might partially be able to include in our, if we do a URI grant, could be included in that. So,
Mike, did you want to change that number?
Well, I wanted to make sure that not to exceed 20,000 from the IDA means it could be more, but that more is covered by grants. Is that what you're suggesting?
that was a suggestion, yes.
Okay. Was that what? was
Okay, yeah, I want to
for?
clarify because if you think we need a lot more, maybe we should, do it so when we put it out there, we've got a chance to get there at least.
Well, the part that I'm happy with is we're not going to expend any money. This has to come back
Correct.
before we spend any money.
Correct.
So that part I'm happy with regardless of what number you put in there.
Okay,
We have to go through the procurement policy,
that sounds good. That'll work.
so. Craig made a motion. Do I have a second?
I did.
Brian.
Brian seconded it. All in favor?
Uh,
Carried? Okay. One item of business. We authorized health insurance for employee if they needed it. Our employees looked at the plans. We authorized up to $8,000 for healthcare insurance. She has done her due diligence and found a policy $2,500 less than that. And it will also include her incurring more deductibles in terms of her copay is a little bit different. So I wanted to make sure that I want to bring to the board to make sure that she's done that, she's picking up more deductibles, if we'd cover 100% of the health insurance costs for her. Again, it's $2,400 less than we'd originally proposed. So I throw that out to the board. We never really put in the motions whether it be a percentage covered. We talked about it, but I never put in motion, but I thought we should bring it back to the.
Could you give us the actual total?
Yes, the policy is $59.40 a year. The other policies we were looking at were close to $9,000 a year, which she would have taken care of a portion of that. She's got the numbers, right? So,
For a motion,
pardon?
you want a resolution?
Please, it will say, even if we pay the whole thing, it's gonna save us at least $150, $200 a month.
I'll move it if you tell me.
You're gonna move the authorization to pay 100% of the policy that she is looking at.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Do I have a second? Dan?
Another question.
Yeah.
So, is it a high deductible, policy? Is that what it is, or is it?
It's not a high deductible, it is a deductible policy. And there are higher copays than the other programs. I think comparatively, it's $100, it's $1,000 for hospitalization, whereas our policy is $150. So there's a hit there. There's some other different copays that are different.
What was the percentage we had out when
20.
we were looking at the higher ones?
20.
What's that?
20. That was never tossed out. We never put that in the resolution. I think it's credible for her to go out and investigate to help save the IDA money and take more risk herself.
Dave, you looked at this, you're in support of this?
Yes, I am. It's going to save the IDA money. All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Okay. Opposed? Carried. I have nothing else come before the board. Any other questions or comments? Thank you for your time. Have a nice evening. Move to adjourn. Do I have a second? We all ran out.
See you later.
Thanks, Nick. You stayed with us.
Thank you. Yes, I did. I couldn't vote, but, I wanted.
Okay, thank you.
That's what I was trying to figure out.